Good morning, everyone. We are back at work with Don't Give It Up that I've been putting together over a series of videos and live streams. This is a series that I'm doing all about Deep House, where we took just an original idea, namely this bass line, and went and found ourselves a vocal sample to sit over it and built a whole Deep House track over it. Over the last couple of sessions, I spent most of the time working on full-on arrangement to get to the full track, and spending a lot of focus and time on the transitions to make the track kind of move along smoothly. I had mentioned at one point that a step that I often will take with Vox is I will separate my vocals out into the vocal mains and then the vocal chops, so that I can distinguish between the two and have some continuity between what the sound is, the reverb, the space that the main vocals are in, and then the same with the chops. That being said, I will also take my vocals and often create a more centered channel that's a little bit more down the middle, less stereo information and more mono information. And I will create a separate track for my sides, so that I can get some stereo information out there that's actually separate and distinct from the main Vox, which more or less serves as a way to just, you know, give it kind of an interesting feel or flavor out in the stereo field. And this is usually quieter, sits in the background, and doesn't always play. In fact, in some sections you'll see, we go through this, that I will bounce back and forth between the two to get sort of an interesting feel of importance to the mains, and sometimes some cool ethereal feels to the stuff in the background. So the off-stream work that I've done coming into today's session was to break out all the vocals into their separate track and arrange the vocals so that they sort of fit together with the rest of the track. And if we look at the overall picture of the track, you know, you got your intro and your build-ups up here. And this one I chose to do sort of a long, slow build into a build into the main theme. So oftentimes you'll see the long, slow build into some sort of a breakdown and then a main theme section, you know, so some sort of a drop. I don't really call it a drop when I'm talking about Deep House, because it's not so much a drop as it is just a main theme, pardon me. Excuse me. In this case, I did the, you know, sort of traditional intro with the buildup of the instrumentation, and then just built up to the main theme. I don't know what got into me to do that, but it just, I think, was an interesting way to bring in the first melodic element and lay out the sound of this track. So you get the main theme, then you've got a second theme, a return to the main theme, breakdown, second theme, breakdown, and then the full-on main theme. And what I wanted to do with the vocals was support that. So these vocals that are in the intro and in the build-up are a little less defined, a little more ethereal, a little bit more in the sides, not so much in the center. And I've got some automation running on some of the vocals that actually will add some elements of delay and reverb. Actually, I say I don't have too much in the front. Most of that stuff's a little bit later in the track. I may add some of that as we go through this today. But this section is more to almost introduce the listener to the timbre, the voice of the lead singer. Give them a hint of what she sounds like, or they sound like. It's actually a group of soulful singers that this vocal comes from. So you don't see so much of the actual vocals, but you do get little elements. And I took some of their elements and did some reverses as well. So I've got elements like this in here now, where I just do some little lead-ups to the actual chop. You know, you got, which I think is a neat way to bring a sound in and give it a little bit of a, whoa, kind of, what was that moment? Even though it's not something big and obvious and in your face, and sort of it's over almost as fast as you heard it, and it just kind of leaves a neat little flavor in your ear. So as I moved through this, I introduced sections. Now, by the time we get to theme 2, it's one of the first times that we really hear the singer start to open up a little bit. little bit of mixing to do here. I'm going to probably bring that up in the mix. Right, so what we've got there, and again, I still have a little bit of cleanup work to do on these vocals, but you can hear this is the second theme. And when you solo it, you can clearly hear those artifacts that are still left over from the tempo change that I made with the warping, which I'll go through and like I said, clean that up a little bit before we go to final mixdown stage. But this section is really the first time we hear the singer kind of open up a little bit. And that leads right into the melodic content for theme 2. Here's the main theme with the main melody, and this is the instrument version of it. So here I'm not going to futz with too much vocals. I'll bring them here in the back, and this is just to, you know, show a little bit of interplay between the main melody and here. And this is something that you're going to see later when I do the same with the vocal accents here. I bring the accents here in on the beat, so they're kind of straight, if you will, right on the one. And when I do that back here, right, where do I do that again? That here, I bring them in the space in between the melody. So here they're coming in right on one. That's the other section. Hang on. Right here, I'm bringing them right in on one. Since I had already done that, when I bring them in again, listen what I do here. So this time I fill the space in between the melodic content. So you got the don't, doom, ow, rather than bringing in ow on the one. And I do that just to, I like elements to be memorable and similar to what happened earlier in the track, but also be slightly different so that it sparks a little interest for the listener to go, oh, what? Wait, that's I thought I heard that before, but it's slightly different. Of course, no one actually articulates that, but it kind of gives that feeling. So here we are in breakdown 2, and in breakdown 2, we actually hear that same sun will shine element again. But this rides a little higher this time because there's fewer instrumentation elements, instruments playing behind. You'll remember we built that little piano chop here that leads in on that. Got the little accents here. Not all of them have that reverse on it. And this sample turns out it's a little quiet. Let's see. I've already figured this out. I'm going through and fixing it up as we run into it. Just the reverses here, just to create a little ambiance in the background. Now this is our build up into our main theme. I don't want that G at the end of that. That should just be straight. Rid of another sample as well. I like to leave some of the tails on my samples so that they don't sound like they got cut off, because oftentimes in your vocal sample there's already going to be some reverb in there, and you don't want to just make it cut off too hard, because sometimes that can end up sounding a little robotic or weird. And we're not really, even though I'm doing some chops here, I don't really want them to sound tech housey, like where it's an obvious sample. It's almost like, oh, are they actually singing those notes? No. Now we're heading into the slower sections where we're going to start to actually fade out most of the elements. And I bring in some other vocal samples here. But I'm going to return to the Don't Give Up, because that is, of course, the main vocal element of the track. And actually, I realized too that I probably want these to repeat. Probably there. I want this. Probably give me a nice little. I don't mind that timing being different. This, and let's skip this one. Something I think I will also do here is on this last Don't Give Up, I think we'll come in here and throw some delay on here. Come on. Throw some delay on here. Carries on just a little bit afterwards. And throw a little bit of reverb on there as well. That really gets spacious. Why are you doing that? There we go. Now I did that on the wider track so that it's out there in the sides. So I think, let's see, there we go. Yeah, I'd already done that on this one right here. Probably add that reverb in there as well. And All right, so that's where we've made it with the track. I think the next session will really just be about refining some of these vocals so that they play off each other a little bit. Probably have a few elements where I might do a little bit more chop work so that I've got some chops filling in some space in between the main vocals. I'm going to clean up some of the samples because I still have some of the issues there with the warping has just left a couple of artifacts that I'm not too happy with, which I'm mostly probably going to cover up with effects, right? Kind of use an element of chorus, maybe even change the amount of send I've got going to the delays to kind of cover that over. I think I'm also running on a couple of the channels somewhere. There we go. Yeah, I've got a saturator and a tube distortion, which will also kind of help grit them up without changing them too much, but make them where I've got something other than just the original sound there, which will help cover up some of those artifacts from warping. So I'm going to keep today's session relatively short. If you're here with me this morning, which I see I've got, if you're here with me this morning, thank you for being here. Catching this afterwards, I appreciate that view. Certainly would love to hear from you. Drop me some comments in the comment section. Let me know so far. Do you hear a section where I think you think I need some more vocals? Happy to put them in there. If you think you've got a section in here where maybe there's too much vocals or an element missing, love to hear about that too. So I'm always open for thoughts from folks who are listening to my tracks as they're in development. I think it's fun to kind of collaborate with folks, whether or not they've got any history in working with music or not. Always happy to try to deal with any thoughts along those lines. So with that, I'm going to leave you a little outro here, and certainly appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.